Thanks. Let's bring the meeting to order. It's 7:07. We only have one item on our agenda tonight, and that is a shoreline zoning permit. Gary's not here to lead us through. Mr. Albert, you're here representing Mrs. Harris, is that correct? Mona Harris. So this is in regards to application 72-19, map 10, lot 14, permit number 72. You have a message from Mrs. Harris that you are the authorized to be representing her, is that correct?
Yes.
So he anticipated this, maybe through consultation with Nick, but
It was
Gary,
Gary.
okay, so he brought in a text message he received. Would the board like to see a copy of that to go with the?
I think we need to have it as part of the
Part of the
application, yeah.
That would be the normal thing. So that message that you got, if we could have that, is that okay to keep that, for us to keep that?
I just screenshotted my phone.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
So
perfect.
we'll pass this around. Roger, you've seen this one. I'm gonna
Yep.
pass it down to the guys so they can see it too. It does have at least the name for the person that sent it and an address and something authorized.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a good one.
I thought that would be sufficient.
We live out of state, so it's very hard for them to.
Yeah. Not uncommon.
Yeah, the condition of Belgrade is such that we have a lot of part-time residents who do the same type of thing. So it's not uncommon for us to see this type. And then we're gonna keep that, Rich, we'll give that to Nick, please.
Put that on file, please.
Be part of it. So we have the note authorizing the representative to act on behalf of the owner. So Caleb Albert is here to do that. And this property is on Messalonskee Lake, down on Hazlet Woods Road. Gotcha.
Where's that?
If you go, I guess you will take a left, go back towards Oakland.
Yeah.
You know where the wide off of the cemetery is?
Yeah.
So maybe 3/4 of a mile on the right.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a long dirt road, probably
Okay.
6, 7 camp on it maybe.
Okay.
You know
Google
where-
Earth couldn't find it.
Is that right here?
Do-
Is
do-
that Lois Hazlett's, get right by her?
Exactly.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, yeah.
They have like a big dragon mailbox.
Yeah, right, exactly, okay.
And there used to be, if you saw it, cupola on the ground.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So when the leaves come off, you see it when you're driving by.
Right.
So a nice stone wall and
Yeah,
all that. So,
yeah.
so you know where that goes, that slopes down. I don't know what the land is like after it slopes down to the lake, I
It
imagine.
pretty much slopes the whole way. It's the dirt road up, it's probably not quite a mile, but pretty close, and they're right to the very last one. And it's past this train tracks that go through there, and they're on the water side of the train tracks.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay, thanks.
so I'm not exactly clear on what you're proposing or what is being proposed to have happen.
Okay, well, I did draw it out, I have pictures so you guys can see all the sides of the house. The code officer had asked me to take pictures so you
Yep.
guys can get a better idea.
Yes.
But on yours, there's a red section that is outlined, and that is the proposed deck. The reason for this particular deck is because right where the doorway is, they have some concrete that's down there that's, the wire mesh is kind of coming through because it's kind of worn out. They had like a rock walkway that went to the other deck that was out front,
Mm-hmm.
and they also had what looked like a small deck at some point, but they covered over with dirt and had flowers on it, and it was of course all rotted out. And in the wintertime, it's very slippery, and they can never find where their well is, because it's right in the driveway area.
Huh.
So
No
what
kidding.
they'd like to do, and of course, everything's angled, so it's slippery, and it's kind of hard in the wintertime to walk. So what we're trying to do is bring it flush all the way across with the deck that's already there, all just to the corner of the well, and bring it back to the house. That way, it'll get rid of their rock walkway, their concrete that's kind of falling apart, as well as that little weird deck that's covered over and rotted. There is a little roof that covers their stairway now to get into the house, and that would stay. The way it is, the deck would probably be 8 inches on the driveway side, probably 8 inches off the ground, and by the time I got over to the other deck, it would be about 2.5 feet off the ground, which would need to have 3 or 4 steps.
Because the ground continues to slope towards the water?
It slopes towards the water, and then if you look where the well is, it also slopes towards the driveway.
Really?
Yeah, it basically, if you're looking at it, from the right of the driveway and the front of the house, it all slopes that way.
Huh.
Which is, plowing is kind of a mess also over there, but,
We see that on the pictures?
I don't know if I got a picture of the land, the lay of the land, I don't know if you're looking at the house, but I do have 6 pictures here. I'm not a photographer, but, the first picture is of the driveway, standing in the driveway looking at the house. You can see the front entrance. The next one is the proposed deck area, which is just showing, well, the bit of a mess that's there.
Oh, and here's the well,
Um,
so that must be the.
Yes, that's the well, and that's how everything slopes.
Okay.
And where these spiral stairs are, you can kind of see a railing right there, that's where the deck is right now.
And that's this guy here?
That's this one right here, you're looking at this part of the railing right here that you're looking at.
Okay.
Because there's some stairs that go down to the water.
Okay.
From the house to the water probably drops 15, 18 feet, to the stairs that go down there.
And then 3, the left side.
That would be this side right here, like just coming around the corner right here.
So looking at
Which
this
is right here.
Okay.
This picture, you're standing right there looking
Right.
at this,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's number 3.
Okay.
And then number 4 is looking at it from right here,
Okay.
but the house is kind of long, so I couldn't get a good picture.
Yeah.
So I stood over
That's
here
okay.
and took another picture.
Yeah, no,
Sure.
that's fine.
And then that one is standing from here.
This actually helps quite a bit, because I,
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of an odd shaped
yeah,
house.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It definitely is.
Looks like it was probably built in stages, maybe?
I'm guessing. I've done a lot of work on it over the years. Redoing things that were rotted because they didn't do flashing properly, stuff like that. Had to redo the decks because you can't
Add on
install
to the
fluting.
add-on to the add-on?
Mm-hmm.
And it is, someone's added on over the years, and they've had it for quite a while, and it's been basically just fixing things, putting some new windows in, done some inside work. And this one is from standing from the water, but you can tell I'm standing probably 10 feet above the water, and I can barely get a picture of the front.
Is that the spiral staircase? or-
No, the spiral staircase is actually right here.
Oh,
These
okay.
would be the stairs that I want to put in.
Okay.
To go to the, mine isn't color coded because I just had him.
Yeah, yeah,
do it.
right,
And
right.
actually,
I knew that wasn't red, but,
Oh, because this right here, the 8 and the 22 was in red on the original, but I guess you guys didn't get that.
yeah, no, actually, I did.
I tried to change the color so you guys.
Yeah, no,
see it.
that's also helpful.
How big is that lot?
I have honestly no idea, but I know it's from here, it's past 50 feet. The driveway is probably 75, 80 feet. anyway.
Non-conforming lot,
Right, I'm thinking it's a non-conforming
so. it-
lot.
Non-conforming
Right,
structure,
right,
too,
yeah.
Yeah.
29 feet from the water.
Right.
My issue when I look at this is, I think we're adding square footage where we already have 1,000 square foot within 100 feet of water.
It could be,
My calculation goes on.
based on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my only real concern.
So we're not making it any more non-conforming.
Yeah, it sounds like someone's coming.
And you can see it's,
If it's Pete Sargent, just leave him out there.
it's there.
You must have crackers, you don't even have an invite to eat. So, yeah. So, you may know that we go by this, something called the shoreline zoning. So have you seen that?
I brought this over, to see what I had to do for it, and he told me to make a drawing and plead my case with you guys, and tell you why I'm trying to do this, and what we're trying to do to correct all the issues that they're having,
Yep.
and it would be up to you guys.
Yep, and we go by the shoreland zoning ordinance, which was, it's pretty up to date.
Find somebody else?
Yeah.
Doesn't have a clue to do it.
Okay, so page 2 of the application is a description that I think you probably generated, is that correct? So I think this describes fairly well what you intend to do. That's
The
it.
best that I could, yes,
Yeah.
it's kind of, there's a lot going on in that little area, what we're trying to simplify and make so we're not having such a difficult time in the winter.
Mhm.
That's mostly what it's about is in the winter. I mean, they're spending more and more time here every year.
Mm.
They come over here more and more. Now their son and his kids come down.
Oh, good.
So they're-
Excellent.
They're actually starting to use it now.
I'm sure they're interested in having it a safe and reliable place to vacation.
Well, that's kind of the last little corner.
Yeah.
They just, the way it sits now, every winter they're paying it, in the springtime, it's where it's such an angle, they have to do something to level it off so that they can actually be able to do this. And I told them that, well, as far as doing a lot of groundwork, you're so close to the water, you have to have erosion control and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
And that would be
Yeah,
better.
yeah, a couple of
And we
things.
thought that this would be the easiest and the cleanest way to do it, and not, keep going with what they had there.
Yeah.
I think that it's something that's been there since they owned it and never did anything with it, because that's how it was.
Probably so. So to kind of set the stage for what we're talking about here, am I correct in seeing or understanding that the front of the drawing that says deck and then the other deck,
The 12 by 8 deck?
yes, and then the other deck which is 28 by 11.6,
Yes.
that portion of the structure is 29 feet, the front of that is 29 feet from the water, is that?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Give or take a few.
That's right here too.
Yes. And then to add that up a little bit, just going backwards in the structure, so we've got 29 feet going back away from the water, so 29 plus 12.6, we're at, what, 41 and a half or something? Then add another 22 going way back along that thing. So we're over 60 some odd feet. The reason why I'm indicating this is that within our shoreline zoning ordinance, it talks about how much square footage you can have. And it's on page 9 of our ordinance, with that certain distances from the water.
And this one is pretty close.
Yeah. So the closer you are, the least, or the lesser amount you can do. Get away from the water, you can do more. So, Rich,
Yes.
you had a concern?
Yeah, if you just take the existing deck on that 12.5 foot distance, toward the water, the deck that's there now,
Yep.
and both things that say deck on that are currently existing, correct?
Yes.
So if I take the square footage of that, it's essentially 36 times 12.5, and I get 453 square feet. And then if I just take the existing house, ignoring the deck with the flowers or whatever, it's 22 by, I did 30, but I don't have that right. Somehow I put 36, but it's not. I gotta redo my calculation, but my concern is, if you take the existing deck and the house and the deck with flowers,
Yep.
which we don't have the dimensions for, that is, I think, fairly close to 1,000 square feet. And you still have to go 11 more feet back to figure out how much is existing within 75 feet of the water.
Right.
And when you add them all together, I believe we're at 1,000 square feet, so therefore we can't allow any further expansion if there's 1,000 square feet there already.
So Caleb, what we're talking about here, what Rich is referring to is in the shoreline zoning ordinance. Correct me if I'm going down the wrong path here, Rich, but on page 10, it says for structures located less than 75 feet from the normal high water line of the water body, structures may not be expanded to a size greater than 1,000 square feet. So what Rich was doing and what I was also helping with was setting up the understanding that as you look at these distances going back from the water, when you start to do calculations to say the structures have already whatever the square footage they have, we are limited in what we can permit. We are restricted. Therefore, expansions that are requested within 75 feet, where you already have 1,000 square feet, would not be permitted.
So
Does-
if I'm not permitted to do that, how can I guess, go about it to achieve the same thing, to try to clean up this
Mhm.
area, but make it also walkable for them?
Understood.
Would a patio be considered the same setup? Because that's the only thing that kind of concerns me with that is, well, it's so close to the water, we're gonna have to do erosion control and everything else to get this thing to not erode out on.
Right,
Lay of the land. It's kind of, not helpful.
right, exactly.
Depending on what Rich ultimately comes up with a number, you know, in the area where you're proposing, the new deck, between the concrete pad, the existing deck that has the flowers on top, and I assume it would include the rock walkway, you got about 112 square feet of existing structure that you could rearrange, you know,
Right.
demolish and reuse, if it comes right up to, you know, 1,000. I don't know what the,
What I figured was, the existing deck at 12 and a half, times 36 feet, which is 28 by 28 feet for the existing deck and 8 feet for the other part of the deck, is 453 square feet. And then I took the house itself, which appears to be 28 by 22.
22.
And you multiply that, you got 616 feet. You add those two together, you get 1,000 already. So what we can't allow is any more square footage than what is currently existing, including what you were talking about. You know, my calculation doesn't include the deck with flowers or the
Concrete
cement
Right.
pad, or whatever. So you could rearrange that. I think what you're gonna have to do is make something a little smaller, but you might be able to do the same thing, but with a smaller deck.
yeah.
And that, I mean, if there's a way that I can do it, yeah, I mean, I don't mind discussing it with them, try to rearrange it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
I think what we don't have here is the numbers for unless there's somewhere I can see, the size of the concrete patio, the size of the deck with flowers.
Oh, well, I just took it, it's, each square is 1 square foot.
that's how I did it.
Yeah,
One straight.
so that's how I came up with 112 square feet
So 1, 2, 3.
for, 24 square feet for the concrete pad. Rich, would the rock walkway count as,
I don't, my thinking is, what does a rock walkway look like? Is it almost like a solid rock walkway, or is it a couple of, what I say, slate stones that are kind of put to walk onto versus?
Yeah.
They've got like a what they've done is they've got like a 4x4 on the side of the driveway, and then a 4x4 that runs around the side, and then they put the rock walkway thing from that 4x4 over to the flower bed.
oh,
And so
okay,
what we're gonna do is go, basically what that 4x4 is, get rid of that and make that just the deck,
right,
is what I was
right.
trying to accomplish. They wanted to go wider than that 8x12x6, and I said, I did not feel there was a way to do that, because it was encroaching closer to the water. even though it's on the side, but I was like, if you keep it even with where your walkway is now, your chances are better.
So, if I understood you correctly, then it sounds like the rock walkway is like, I don't know if it's slate or some other kind of stone, but
It's
laid
flat.
in between
They're flat stone. yeah.
flat stones, so it's more than just like gravel, I guess. Is that what you were
So
getting at,
it's-
Rich?
They're like
It's
bigger,
fairly-
they're like bigger stone that you walk
Yeah.
on with a 4x4 edging.
Yeah, so that's,
And there's not a lot of space between individual stones or anything like that?
Not really,
It's
no.
not like there's.
yeah, so that
It's
sounds
not
like
like
a
it's five
structure to
stones.
me.
We could
So,
stop that.
so that's 28 square feet, and then the deck with the flowers, which is pre-existing, is that's 4 by 15, I think, if
I tried counting too, I got 14 and a half, I didn't know if it was,
so that's like another 60, so that,
I remember correctly, mine, I have a piece of paper, you don't know the lines,
yeah,
but yeah, it was like 15 feet.
yeah.
Okay.
So, there's about 112, if I did
Right.
the math correctly.
right,
Um,
just.
That
right
could
there.
be,
That
you
could
know,
be rearranged somehow.
rearranged, or, I mean, I assume how did they, is the goal to, the way this is drawn out now, and maybe it'd help if I looked at the drawing before I say something stupid, but the,
Hard to see.
so the walkway, the current stone walkway, that goes down towards the lake, not to the driveway. They don't use that to,
It goes from like the front door and the edge of the driveway.
right,
It goes from basically right here and goes right over to this deck.
okay,
Which is that thing
Yeah.
Well, that railing is kind of, what you're seeing is right here, yes.
Okay, all right,
You can
so that's
kinda
the
see
far end of the
You
deck.
can kind of see the pad right there, actually. The picture's a little dark, but I ran over there after work and tried to get some pictures.
So right now, it's only starts at the door.
Correct. It goes basically right here in front of the door, and then it's connected to this little
Yeah.
concrete pad that's there, where the wire is kind of coming out.
So then it goes down towards this,
Yeah.
this
All the
deck
way to
here.
this deck.
And if I understood it right, this rail is at the far end of that. deck.
Yeah, it's looking like it's over here. There's no rail there, because that's actually almost at ground level. And the spiral stairs are the spiral stairs actually are right here. That's why the deck was gonna stop here to put the steps over here, because it's a little bit of it's quite a height difference.
But in this 4-foot area right here, is there concrete or rocks there now, right here?
No, that's where they're.
Okay, so you'd be adding that on.
That's where, yeah, this little square here was to
That's-
get that concrete pad and everything, because right now there's
Non-existing.
stairs. But if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that I'd be able to do something this wide, but have to stop it a little shorter, like at the doorway maybe? Depending on how the square footages of everything lines up?
If we, let me just tell you what I'm thinking.
Alright.
What the gentlemen on the board have proposed so far is that, based on the fact that our shoreline zoning ordinance would not allow us to approve any expansion within 100 feet from the water, because of the fact that by definition, in here, the amount of square footage already exists
I'm
at the max, that you maxed out, right? So therefore, we're trying to look at what it is you have already, and can you rearrange those little chunks to then meet the need?
To make something work.
Yep,
Correct.
that's what we're trying to,
yeah. So it seems like you might have a couple of options here. One would, I think you have a total of 112 square feet,
That I have currently.
yeah, that you have currently, and you probably want to double check my math, but, so you could, for example, use that all up in something that, I mean, you were talking about the safety hazard that the concrete pad poses,
Correct.
and so you clearly want to do something about that, cover it or whatever with a deck. You could use it all there, or you could, for example, use only 84 square feet of it for something in front of the entranceway and keep the rock walkway.
Alright, so if I'm understanding, I just did it, 8 by 22 gives me 176 square feet is what I was proposing to do. And how much square foot did you roughly say that we already had?
Well, I think in terms of the sum of the concrete pad, the rock walkway, and the deck with the flowers, I added that up to 112 square feet, if I did my math correctly. I mean, like I said, you want to double check that.
Yeah, but
But-
I guess what my question is, if you guys define as of kind of right now as we're talking, is like as long as I didn't exceed the 112 square feet, I just rearranged it.
Yeah, you could do it however you want.
As long as I don't exceed the square footage.
Yeah, that's what I think. I don't know
I
if
would be
others
thinking
agree
that
with
too.
me.
I would be thinking that exact same thing. So if the total is 112 that you have to work with, then what we're saying is that we would not allow more than
Yeah.
112.
But it kind of depends on what you just, whether it's 112 or 84 depends on what, like, for example, if you keep the rock walkway. Because if you keep the rock walkway for use, then that comes out of that square footage, you don't get to count it twice.
They won't be using that.
They won't.
The point is to get rid of that, because that's,
Okay,
to make it
all right.
all nice and flat.
Okay, so if that, the intention is to eliminate that, then you got 112 square feet to work with.
Yep.
Okay, now,
So can you answer me this, the rock walkway, what are the dimensions?
I don't know which square.
Well,
I was counting.
I thought it was,
The 4x4 perimeter is right in line with the edge of that 8 by 12'6" deck. That's where the 4x4 goes for the walkway. And the walkway goes right to the deck with the flowers on it.
Right, so you.
oh, okay. I was just going by where the dashed lines were on the drawing.
Oh, I tried to just show that it was.
Yeah, so that's not the real dimensions.
Oh,
Yeah.
so if I go
So-
one,
It's the width
2,
of my
3,
deck.
4.
I'm
Yeah.
just getting rid of both of those and putting a deck over it.
6, 7, 8.
So you may have more than 112 square feet to work with.
It's hard to get a lot of weird.
Yeah, right,
So I've got
right.
4 by 14, if I've counted correctly, for that
on that.
rock. So I just thought maybe if we just talked it out, and then so I've got the concrete pad is 3 by 8, that's 24 square feet. The rock walkway,
That walkway goes from a concrete pad.
I've got 4 by 14, that equals 56 square feet. And then the deck with flowers is 4 by 15,
Yes.
is that correct?
It's like 14 and a half, 15.
4 by 14 and a half.
It's like 14 and a half, yes, I remember correctly. It's not quite
14.
15.
0.5 equals 58.
And the only other thing they have there already is they have a little pad underneath that roof for the front door. It's a set of steps that sits there right now.
Oh, yeah, that's, shows on the picture.
Yeah, it does, so that would be what, is that 2 by 3 or something, or?
It's 48 inches wide and 2 steps with a 30-inch landing.
What's on the ground, if you will, what, to the right and left of the roof? That little square area,
Right now, that concrete pad is there. To be honest with you, I don't know what is in that little hole. I think it's just dirt. I don't think there's anything there. That's where they kept their flower, their water wheel. So I think it's just dirt right there.
and probably the same between the deck and the other side of the roof there.
That little, yeah, there's like a foot and a half right there. That's,
So we're really not talking a whole lot of reduction.
No.
It's basically, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 26, 28 square feet.
Yeah,
or something.
would you give her a total, Peter, because it will be bigger than mine?
Right, so I'm looking at the concrete pad, which is 24 square feet, plus 56 for the rock walkway, plus 58 for the deck with flowers. That's at 138 right there. And then we talked about the 2 stairs with a little landing. I counted that 4 feet wide by 3 feet. I think
pretty close.
so that's 12, so plus 12.
There's like a 30-inch landing with a step. So you're probably just right where it sits.
Pretty close.
Close enough to what we're trying to do.
So I've got 150 square feet by adding up those 4 particular objects.
So that would be how much square
The
footage
one I
you'd
was
have?
trying to get was 176.
Yeah, so,
So, like Rich said, about 26 feet shy of what we were hoping to do.
Reduce it by a foot and a half width or something.
Can I just make it a foot and a half, even 2 feet shorter than the edge of that, the edge where the driveway well is, just shorten it up on that end? That would get me my square footage 26 feet less.
yeah.
From a
Whatever.
map.
I mean, really, that's yours and your client's decision to make.
But yeah, I'm just trying to find the best possible, because I know they would like to keep it the 8 feet out, but keep it even with the deck.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
You know,
Right.
just to keep
so
everything
you
in a
cover,
straight line.
so
From
you
that
cover that
direction, and
concrete
then
pad.
Shorten the other one.
Just shorten up the other side, and I can still maintain what you guys need, but yet I can also kind of get them what they're looking to do.
Right.
I just need to make 26 feet, did you say we're at 150 feet right now?
By my math, when I add up the four objects, I had 150 square feet on the dot.
Okay,
So we've got 150. That's what is currently there for the objects that we talked about.
and I can't go past it.
Correct.
So,
So from a mathematical perspective, we've provided some information so you can make an informed decision, right, Caleb?
yes.
The application, as I understand it, is proposing to do something that goes for 176. My thoughts were that we talk this out, tell you where we're going, and then if it comes to pass that we deny this application, you would still then be informed as to what you could do. So this is just, I'm not trying to predict, but I'm thinking this is the way it may go. If we deny it, then you would know what you have to do to get one approved, then you come back with another application to approve it.
Okay, so we'll just come back with another 2 weeks and propose one at.
This is what I'd be suggesting. I don't know if the other board members feel similarly, but that would be a way to go. The other thing to do would be possibly after talking about it, I don't know if the board members feel the same way, but if you altered your application tonight and signed and dated it, we could act on that one. How do the board members feel about that?
The feeling is as long as it's clear.
Yeah, right, I mean, I'm okay with, if the drawing, if you're able to amend the drawing here and now, and,
Very close, so I don't see why.
yeah, and, just, amending the proposed structure footprint on the first page along with the drawing and dating initially, and we'd be able to move forward.
It's gotta be,
But-
let me just point out, I would need to feel comfortable, or you'd need to clearly state somehow that, say you made it 100 and whatever the number is it's supposed to be, that anything that's already there on the ground that's outside the perimeter of this new structure needs to be removed. In other words,
Not keep what's existing little blocks here, but beyond my outside dimension.
you could just, between the outside dimensions of your new structure, existing structures have to be removed. Maybe the rock, you can't, in other words, you can't reduce it.
Can't have both.
But then have the, and then have the pad still sitting there or something, unless the pad is underneath your new structure.
Yeah, yeah.
And is part of those.
Well, and I think that's your intent, isn't it, to just,
Yeah, 'cause
rather than
right
go
now
to
the
the,
tripping thing, I've cut the wires out once before, and then a year and a half later, by the time the plow truck comes by and scrapes it down, the wires are poking back up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they don't want it there at all.
So, yeah, you can't have both things, right? So that's pretty clear.
yeah,
So,
So if I did, instead of maybe 8 by, let's say 19, 152, so I'd have to do 8 by 18. I did the 8, but made it 18.5 instead, they give me 148.
that, to me, that would work based on the math that we've done for the objects that have been identified on the ground.
I have no qualms or issues doing that, that makes me fall
Mhm.
here with the 2 feet. I mean, I'm not gonna make a little box on the outside of it,
Right.
but that would suffice, and I don't see why they wouldn't be more than happy with that themselves.
yeah.
that's still getting them what they want, but
Yep.
getting you what you want as well.
Yep. So if that type of redesign can work for you, what we would need is to have that clearly marked on the original application, your initials and today's date, and,
Change the 22 to.
yeah, change the dimensions so that it's clear what you're proposing to
Yeah.
do.
And the drawing,
The
show it on the
drawing.
drawing.
Correct.
What ultimately it would be rather than what you initially proposed.
Because the end game here, Caleb, is this: what's permitted, whatever is requested and is permitted is what we're trying to say is that is what all that gets done,
Correct.
nothing more.
Yep.
So that's why we're asking to say, make this picture like what reality is going to be like. Okay, so Mr. Poole has the original. If you want to go up and
What was the dimension you
Revise.
said you're gonna make it in terms of height?
Originally it was 8 by 22.
Yeah.
8 by 18.6, so 18 and a half, would give you 148. If I did my numbers right.
I was thinking you're chopping
Structures on
foot
the
in
lot
half
now.
off of it's more than.
Oh, I thought we could at first, and I didn't
We'll
realize
ask
it
him.
went to 152. So I
That's
think
what
I'm
it says
gonna
here,
have
I
to-
just wonder where they get it to.
Nick, he's gonna need the first page
There's no
as
other-
well, so it can change
So I was looking at the
the,
picture, see if there's something else.
Okay.
that's
So
these.
footprint area is gonna be 148.
I was looking to see if there's a little tool shed or something like that that's also within 75 feet they could tear down.
Oh, yeah,
That they didn't mention, so.
right.
I think everything else on the first page should be fine, it's just amending the drawing there.
All right. Do you want me to do it in different colors so you guys can see it? 'Cause- well, this is black.
Do we have a highlighter or something?
Highlighter?
Do we have a highlighter?
Yeah, I was thinking we can do 18 foot 6 inches. And then the 8 stays the same. Now I need to do,
Maybe if we get the highlighter, we can just highlight the area to be, not to be constructed there or something.
Yeah, I think he's getting
he's
one.
getting a highlight.
Is there any other small buildings out anywhere near that house, you know, like an old
There's-
outhouse, or
There's a shed over there.
there's a shed, are they using that?
They use it for their kayaks and.
Oh, I was gonna say, 'cause if they can tear anything down like that, they can gain square footage.
I think the shed's the only thing that's there.
Oh,
Okay. So is that part of what it says here, there's two structures on the lot?
That was the second one,
Okay,
and that one's not at all fallen down, so I don't think they want to take it.
okay,
That's a keeper.
No, yeah, it's a keeper, it's
Oh.
nice enough, I don't think they want to get rid of it.
okay.
That's
Well,
a good,
that's,
that's a good point.
yeah.
Which is too bad they don't have anything that they could take down.
Yeah,
Actually, they do have a little wood shed. It's not even a shed, all it is a little roof thing.
Just the roof, yeah, I saw that.
That's sitting out back.
Oh, that's probably not gonna help.
I don't know if that
It's
counts.
75 feet from the water.
Right,
Yeah.
beyond.
That's sitting like right here.
Yeah, that's
It's
why I
sitting
went back
about-
to the pictures
about
to look at
15
it,
feet in from this side.
Probably
to see
easier
if there's
to do.
anything else right there.
You do as you want, but I think.
Oh, I can change it.
Oh,
you guys can change it? No, because say that's about 15 feet in.
It is wood shed.
40,
The roof.
50, 60, it's set, it's within 75 feet.
The only other thing would be maybe this
But
part
that
here,
one is, it's 8 by 2.
Where-
What that is. Well, that gets you
Should get a
16.
right there,
So
see?
either way, I mean.
Sticks out, then the stairs go
either
down. If
take
he
that
takes that out and he
down
turn the stairs
make that
around,
a little bit bigger.
that's like a 4x4, and that might be enough for here.
I mean, that would be another option, but
that's within
then I
75.
think we'd have to ask you to come back in 2 weeks with
That would be another option.
Showing it.
Yeah,
Because I don't have anything on the
because-
list.
Doing some
Yeah,
math here to
because
see where we're at.
that kinda gets
29.
beyond
That
what we
would be
can
over here.
monkey around with
Right.
here.
And they may not
So
want
it's
to do.
beyond the 75.
It is,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's.
That's what I was looking
What I
for
could
something
do,
like
too,
that.
If I was to make this happen and they decided, he had brought up a point that with the wood, there's a little wood shed you saw in one of your pictures.
Yeah.
And it does look like it falls within, 75 feet of the water.
Okay,
And that's like 8 by 2,
Yeah.
estimating.
that's right there.
Yes, but that would get them an extra 2 feet on the deck
There's a
out
better
front.
picture of it.
Yeah.
If we were to make this go through and they decided, yes, I would rather just take the wood shed off, could I come back and just revamp it to get rid of the little wood shed?
There is a good picture of that wood shed.
I think you could. You could come back and amend, even with a permit, you could ask.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I think that'd give you
Actually,
more than enough square footage.
Actually, didn't we have something like that this past summer?
You just move it back. You're getting rid of, assuming you're not over 1,500 square feet within 100 feet of the water, but if you move that shed beyond 75 feet, that gets them out of the.
Yeah, that's
you know,
right.
it's no
That
longer
would be
part of
another
the-
Because I was
option.
gonna say, I said, I was like 15 feet in, which gets me 70 feet off the water. If I just moved it to the corner of the house, that gets me at like 80, 85 feet.
You're outside of 75.
Then I have an extra, well, 8 by 2, so I can make another 2 feet longer. I know they'd let me move the shed. But that's, you guys just call what you want me to do.
Well, that's why I was looking at the picture, see if there's some way that, something else that you can get out of that 75-foot area, and you can gain that extra square footage.
I can gain an extra 2 feet on that deck very easily doing it that way.
Yeah.
I know it, well, it's gotta be, it's at least 2 feet. I know it is because they have 2 rows of firewood inside that thing. Might be 3 feet, but I don't know. I didn't measure it.
If you can get them to, agree to moving it back, that would be perfect, because then it would be outside 75 feet, as Rich just talked about, and then, you're acting on behalf of the applicant, so if you declare that, and then say you wanna have two more feet on the proposed structure, you could just declare that there.
All right. So
It's
I
no
think-
problem from our perspective,
I'm looking at the full winter. That's what I'm looking at.
right,
Right.
right. From our perspective, we want the math to work out.
What's it look like to you, Rich?
Is this what you were referring to as the shed?
That thing.
That's more than 2 feet wide, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well, it's 2 rows of firewood deep, so it's probably more than that, but I didn't want to give a number that was bigger than what it really is.
it almost looks like it's a 4x6 or something like that.
I know it's about 8 feet out.
Oh.
I know it's 8, but as far as the depth, it's 2 rows of firewood, so it's gotta be at least 32 inches or something, because a piece of firewood's gotta be at least 16.
We're trying to meet the letter and the spirit of the law, so, and without having the dimensions of what that roof and woodshed is, we don't know what it is, but it sounds like what you're trying to do is to look for a way to get 150 square feet in your proposed structure. So, you know where we're coming from, we're looking for anything to be adjusted with regard to within 75 feet of the water.
Okay, so
That makes sense?
would it probably be a good idea to kind of for right now, pretend the woodshed isn't there, do what we were gonna do, and when I measure that, if there is something they're more willing to do, but I know it's at least 2 feet, but I don't, if it's 3 feet, that means we could actually have the 8 by 20 to go from, just by moving it. Because I'm taking going to 18'6", so I'm taking 2 plus 22.
It's not, to me, it's not,
2.5 feet off.
it sounds very feasible to do these types of things. I would dare say you have a couple of options. One is to propose something, we could act on it.
Okay.
Like you could either propose something which you initially went with, which I'm thinking is gonna get denied. You could have a revised application which could be approved, knowing that if, with further consultation with the owners, there is an agreement to move that woodshed, which then allows you to think, oh, let's do a recalc on the structure part,
All right.
and then we'd come in for an amendment.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to the board members?
Or you could pull your application tonight, go home and redo your calculations with
Yeah.
the woodshed gone, come in with a new permit.
That way you don't pay the application fee
Right.
twice.
Well, either way, it looks like I'm gonna have to come in, because it looks like they're gonna, if that shed meets the same, 22 to 18'6", it's like 3.5 feet. So if I can make it, I know I need 150 square feet, or at least 176 to do what we originally wanted. So.
Well, if coming back a second time is not an issue for you, that at least saves you $40.
Yeah, let's-
In the application fee, rather than having us approve something tonight that really isn't what's gonna happen. And then, coming back with, a new application.
Third plan.
Yeah, that you're gonna have to pay the fee for again.
Because I can understand you guys well, I mean, as hopeful as I want, but I don't meet I don't make the criteria, so you have to fail it.
Yeah.
There's no
A-
doubt about
As
that.
it's proposed initially, yes, that's correct.
It is.
The,
I go
and
trip all I want, it doesn't meet the numbers, so numbers
and-
count.
Correct.
in the new application, just be sure to show where the wood shed is now and where it's gonna be moved to as well.
Yeah, and I'll make sure it's past that 75
So
foot.
in that way, yes, right.
Right.
So I won't draw on that anymore. I guess I'll. we'll wait
Withdraw your
till-
application
Okay.
tonight?
So,
Oh, wait, hang on. So, you're suggesting withdraw it, but I don't know. is it-
withdrawing's fine, that'd be a way to do it.
Okay, because then, because
Yeah.
what he had mentioned about, not having to pay
Right.
the fee is.
By
Nick, am I
withdrawing tonight, you
correct
won't
that
have
if
to.
he withdraws it, that he doesn't have to
Won't
pay?
be a
the-
very long time here.
No, because on my way home, I'm gonna measure.
I think that's the same as you guys,
Denying it?
kinda, yeah. You want
All right, so
table
could we
it.
table it?
That means it's still, I would, if you withdraw that, give him back the permit.
Probably simpler, or I think more, make sure that he doesn't get another fee here.
Yeah,
Table
well,
it.
that, I
Okay,
mean,
so-
There,
yeah,
The proposal to table it until he gets more information.
I second it.
So there's been a proposal.
Yep, that's
there's been a
motion.
Motion and seconded. Any more discussion? So my only point is, and I agree, Roger and Rich, that this is a good approach, that not only do we need more information, but we need to have the application complete. And by us talking about what we're looking for, like was mentioned, indicate where that shed's gonna be on the drawing, right? Because right now, it's not there.
Because I didn't realize.
Right.
yeah,
Right,
yeah,
it just-
understood.
And it's not a fault. This is,
Good thing I took a lot of pictures.
right, it's good, it's really
And
good.
at the same time, you can get the letter from her signed,
I can have her mail me
so,
one.
which would, probably would have been a condition tonight. So,
Yeah.
that's,
Alright.
that's another thing you can get done.
All right, so, there's been a motion to table and seconded. We've had some discussion. Did anybody else have any more questions? Caleb, do you have any questions for us? Because we, believe it or not, we want to help you get this done.
No, I'm not
We
saying
really
no.
do,
Just
yeah.
You guys are giving me other options to be able to make it happen,
Right,
which, like I said, I know numbers, they don't add up. 2 and 2 is always 4, no matter how you add it.
there you go.
But this way, the way I'm doing it right now is not gonna work because we're 26 square feet off. But if that woodshed is something close to 26 square
Yep.
feet, then I can just make their deck out front be exactly what they would like.
Right.
And move the woodshed over.
Yep.
I don't think they're gonna have any qualms about that. But I can have them sign the letter, and I'll talk to them, and on my way home, I'll get a measurement, because, well, I'm in Winslow, and it's on the way.
On the way,
I don't need to make another special trip.
As long as everything works, because believe me, you're on the water, and there's gonna be eyes looking.
Oh, every time.
Yeah.
There's neighbors there, they know who I am, because I'm down there too much cleaning snow with these people, 'cause
Yeah.
they don't
Yep.
come to clean snow.
Well-
They have me do it.
Yeah,
I have to go down there in my Bobcat and clean the snow, so they can actually get in there, because they have to go in the winter months.
and you've got a high visibility vehicle, so it's a good thing,
Yes, it tends to be people like to see
It's,
it.
you can see it, so that's good.
Works
that's-
bad for tickets sometimes.
Well, yeah, sometimes you don't want to be seen, but, all right, so, we have a motion on the floor, seconded, we've had discussion, we've asked you if you have any more questions. Do you understand where we're coming from on this?
100%.
Okay. Do we have any other comments or anything for the applicant? No? Therefore, all those in favor of the motion to table? 4 in favor, none opposed. So, it's been tabled, so do your thing and, come back and we'll
What do you
be,
need from me to be able to, he said the next meeting's on the 7th, what do I gotta do to be on that?
tell him,
How long is it on the 7th?
yeah.
And I'll make sure I bring
Yeah.
that woodshed measurements and a signed letter from them.
Yep.
Sounds
The only
great.
one that way it'll be here.
Sounds wonderful to me.
Perfect.
Done deal.
Caleb, thanks, we wanna make sure we get through this application process for you.
Absolutely, it was easy enough to go,
Yeah.
just gotta make the numbers work.
Yep,
That's easy.
that's what it's all about.
Yes, thank you.
Very good.
Thanks, have a safe journey back home, watch out for deer.
There's a few over.
I haven't seen too many yet.
I
I
got
saw-
my driveway.
Pardon me?
I got a 49 200-foot driveway, and there's at least 15 of them there every night.
Really?
Every
Jeez,
night. If you slow down too much, they think they can pass.
yeah.
They have to stop to make sure they don't go.
And
We
you're,
get to watch babies grow up every year.
Oh, cool.
That's cool.
Very cool.
so you got a herd,
We have the same one, we get the same mom that has 3 babies every single year.
yeah,
And it don't matter what I'm doing out plowing there, you away, just chilling.
yeah.
The thing is now you try to gauge, see how close you get to them, and they're getting kind of bouncy.
Yeah. Are you in town in Winslow, or?
You know what Smiley's Ice Cream is?
Yeah,
I built the houses right next to the blue one in the ranch, and I'm out back of them on the water side.
ah,
So
great.
I'm from Albion, so I needed to get closer down, but
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, yeah. Great, all
Right,
right,
we got a house going on over there right now, and I'll, for these people as well.
yeah,
I told them I'd see what I could do to make their wishes happen.
yep,
It looks like it's gonna happen.
One way or the other, whether it's 18.5 feet or the full thing, but we'll make it.
yep,
Very good.
Is there anything else you need from me, or?
no, sir,
No.
Transplant those deer over to my backyard.
yeah.
No, let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
But you guys have a good night.
All right,
Thanks,
I'll
you
get
too.
the measurements, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right, very good.
See ya.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice meeting.
Nice meeting
3
you
weeks?
too.
Yeah, there's five on Thursdays this month, so it's been all 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's all right,
Be
see
snow on
ya.
the ground by then.
I know it, hopefully we all tag out by that
Yeah,
point.
my son's in the summer milk pattern, so. Usually when that happens, 2 weeks, they get it on the ground.
Yeah,
Actually saw a nice buck on the side of the interstate coming back from physical therapy today.
Today?
Didn't run over, yeah. Well, nice, probably a 6-pointer, like Richmond, between Richmond and the Gardner exits.
really? And was that just like, what time of day, 5:30?
Well, I mean, I saw it dead, so
Oh.
I saw it around 1:30 in the afternoon.
Oh,
It
it
had
hit
been
by a car?
killed.
Yeah, it did hit,
Oh,
I assume.
I was gonna say, for the deer I see when I'm driving around, I probably see 30 does, maybe more for every dog you see.
Oh, for
And it just, they seem to be not, they don't come out like the does and the lambs that.
God, I miss those days ago to pick them up.
Yeah,
What's that, Roger?
I miss those days of being called to go pick them up.
Oh, yeah, I bet. I'm sure you do.
4 hours, a time and a half, plus you get to keep the deer.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah.
not bad.
One year, day before hunting season, I came home with $5 in the back of the truck.
Did you have to get them, whatever, like tagged or anything?
Oh, yeah, that's, before hunting season or this time of the year, I'd get the state police and he gave me a card of them and he said, here, sign them. Just make sure there's no bullet holes in them.
You've been duly authorized.
And anytime I had to call to have one put down, I'd take the tag, show it to him, and he'd sign it, and that was it. Yeah, at one point I had 2 moose and 5 deer in the freezer.
Holy moly! That's something.
And my wife doesn't eat that stuff.
No?
That was in my glory.
Oh,
Hey,
he's
Caleb.
back.
Question, I don't have one of those 1-inch, the little graph papers. Mine are all the 4-inch ones, and the building's too big.
You run off it and you're like, ah.
All right, 8 o'clock, what else we got?
Let's see. I met up with Anthony Wilson to talk about our budget. I brought up some items to plan for enough money in our upcoming budget for a couple of things. Map stuff in particular, right? Want to make sure we can do that. And anything to do with revising this ordinance and bringing it to the voters, we need to make sure we have sufficient funds for all that. Those would be probably the 2 biggest things outside of the norm, postage and, personnel costs and so on, so. But he was very, very, it was a very nice meeting. We had a nice chat over lunch. It was good.
It wasn't like Trump and Pelosi.
There was no meltdown.
No meltdown.
No meltdown.
That memo that Nick sent out the other day, and George responded to, and George had it pretty well right on. The only thing that, when we're revising the maps, the ones that are currently resource protection, that Fish and Wildlife no longer considers moderate or high value, the map change will show them as limited residential, except for the portions of that boundary of the wetland that might be steep slope greater than 20%, what might be a forested wetland that's more than 2 acres, that's one of the criteria. So whatever, if a portion of it meets one of the other criteria, that'll say resource protection.
We haven't really looked at it with that in mind yet, have we?
We haven't, no. And my thinking is that when those maps were put together, they were done based on existing data for a national wetlands inventory map showing where the 2 acre or more forested wetlands are, the topo maps and things like that. And so I think those changes, at least initial draft, can be done by Sewell with existing information without us going out and looking.
Oh, okay, so they could basically figure that out for us rather than us having to
That's
do it.
already, yeah, that's already probably in their system, they just have that.
Right, that would be a different GIS layer or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, exactly. For the most part, I think the final draft of changes won't be all that difficult to do. So I have no idea what people charge for mapping and stuff, or what it'll cost us, but it shouldn't be a long dragged out technical thing.
Right, and I think that one of the requests I had of Anthony was to be in contact with Sewell to know that we will be asking them to estimate what it will cost to do this, so
That
that,
was my question. Didn't Denny already give an estimate, because we budgeted $2,500 this past, for this year, 2019, for mapping. And my recommendation is we already estimated the costs of those changes, at least Denny did, and that's why we budgeted that much. So do you guys want me to figure out what it will cost next year, just as safety precautions? Or?
in my mind,
Because that money hasn't been touched yet.
in my
Well, it
mind,
hasn't, it's just
So,
sitting there.
I asked Mary, she said, no, nothing's been taken out of that account.
so in my mind, great that it hasn't been touched. I still think we need to know what the estimate would be from Sewell, because we can budget all we want, but if the estimate comes in higher and we haven't budgeted for it, then we're in kind of a hole.
Yeah,
I think it's great that we have that value, that amount budgeted, wonderful, but still, let's get a cost estimate, something. That would be my opinion.
I agree.
One question I had, and Nick, in his memo, we've been talking tonight using the term Sewell Company. I had thought their mapping division was bought out. Are they still actually technically a part of Sewell Company with a different name?
I honestly don't know. Nick, do you know?
I think they are. I just referred to it.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So,
I don't know.
for clarity,
It's not Mary anymore either, we're doing something like that.
If it's not Marion?
so if we,
The guy?
The guy.
And maybe the guy that did the work for us in the end, I mean, we dealt with Mary, but in the end, she came in when that company that bought the mapping division, whatever,
Yes.
came and talked to Denny Keschel
Mhm.
about, you remember one time Denny was talking about having them come and talk to us or whatever,
Mhm.
and I think that might be the same guy.
Mhm.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there as far as what we need to know, I guess.
but, budget's just a budget, Expenses, that's real. That's where the rubber meets the road. So knowing what a cost estimate will be from the mapping service that the company does, then let's get that.
Would it make sense if, and George mentioned, I think I have Fish and Wildlife map at home, the moderate and high value. Somehow, we need to get to Sewell Company in other words, for them to give us an estimate, we need to provide them what they need to do for us.
Yeah.
Yes,
Which
And-
wetlands we're talking about.
yes,
Yeah,
that would make
so-
sense.
It may be, I'm thinking worthwhile, if I kind of took our existing map in conjunction with the IF&W moderate high value wetlands map, and kind of wrote a letter, for lack of a better term, wetland by wetland, as to what they need to do in those areas. Get it to Nick or whatever, but they need to know what they're gonna
Yeah.
be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That
so
would
do you,
certainly allow them to give us a more accurate estimate.
right, that would be essentially the best way to go, because if you came up with a narrative that said we need to change this wetland from this, showing these demarcations to this, to these demarcations, and do that for the several wetlands that we're talking about, that would provide them with the scope of work that they could then, come back with and react to and respond to. So, that would be my thinking. So, Nick, well, first of all, Rich, are you willing to do that?
I am.
So-
I'm thinking that when I do that, I'll maybe come into the town office and get the current shoreline zoning map that they did for us 6 months ago or whatever, the revised one, in conjunction with the IF&W map, so that I can, and it might take, you got a color copier here, right? No?
Well,
Not-
it isn't print color, it's full color.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, it may not even have to be in color, but I could make copies of the different wetland sections of it. And I could write right on there as to what we would expect to happen here.
Sounds great. Would you please tell Anthony, Nick, that this is part of the game plan to provide that information to the company? To provide an estimate for the mapping services we're expecting? Because I want to connect the dots for Anthony so he knows what we're expecting. That together, when we go to ask for an estimate, that there's awareness of, oh, hey, this is the scale and scope of this request. That way they come back and say something, we can say, oh, whatever that value is, if it's over and above 2,900, or whatever the value we have budgeted for, we put that in.
And it seems like, and I don't know if this is part of the discussion of budget, because they'll have to take the information we provide them now, or whatever, and at least an estimate. I see it being a two-stage thing. One is, here's a draft map of what you want. And then, like right now, we're proposing to zone the upper edge of that wetland that we talked about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Right.
Resource protection. We need to have that on a draft map, but in the end, if the townspeople reject it, we're gonna have to go back to Sewell Company and say, well, take that one off, keep it in limited residential, but do the other changes, or actually, maybe if they wouldn't reject part of it, they'd reject.
Yeah, they
the
would
whole-
reject the whole thing,
thing, yeah.
one way,
Yeah.
so it would either revert to what is now,
Yeah,
Right.
or
say,
it would,
yes, give us a
yeah,
final version.
all three would be changed.
It's really ongoing maintenance on the map. When it comes right, in my mind, that's the way I'm viewing it, because we have to budget for updates. We'd like to think they might be permanent, but they won't be, because they might be for a little while. But depending on voter outcome, let's go back to what it was. So there'll be work to get it up to date, bring it back, revise more.
I mean, depending on what the estimate is, I mean, if we got lucky and it was $2,500 or less, we could just move forward with it.
Correct.
If it's more than that, then we have to wait for next year's appropriation.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, another option would be to say, we can just budget higher for it, you know, double it. It almost doesn't matter what the value is, but it doesn't mean we have to spend it, but we have to have something in the budget,
Well,
because
If we don't spend
Anthony,
it though by the end of this fiscal year, don't we lose it?
we didn't last year.
Yeah, I talked to Mary, I don't know how that happens. I know some stuff
Seems-
can carry forward, I don't know what that stuff has to be.
It almost seems like you gotta request it, and if you get the request, and then maybe the select board approve of carrying it forward or whatever, I don't think it's a guarantee.
Right. But the mapping stuff is real important. I mean, no matter what, I mean, I think we can make a case, you know, to the select board to carry it forward.
The one thing to be prepared for is if we have $2,500 on our books right now, and, you know, when the budget committee, I only know this because I've seen the budget, been at budget committee meetings before, where they, a lot of times will pick up on that and say, if you didn't spend it this year, then why are you asking for it?
Feels like a general fund sweep, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we just need to be prepared for that.
Right,
And if we're in process, that adds to the case.
right. Yeah, exactly. So, I know Anthony's trying to get budget packages all summarized and stuff, and so I know he can't be too held up, you know, about things based on waiting for responses from a mapping service who might be, they might be pedal to the metal on other stuff, and you see what I'm getting at with that? You know, it's, plus it's gonna take time, you know, to develop the narrative, Rich, that you're doing. It won't be done tomorrow, and meanwhile, November's around the corner. I know Anthony wanted to get some stuff done by the end of October, you know, so, again, this is just.
Yeah, there's no way we have an estimate.
No, I don't think so. So I think it would be appropriate to be prepared to budget a little high for this thing, even though we don't even have, it's likely we won't have any type of response from the mapping service, the company, whatever. But we just have to know what we're doing. And things are in process, and they will be. And
Yeah, but
what else is going on around here? Have we heard anything on the Old Town office?
Yeah, they dropped off their highway permit today, or gave it to me, so I don't know when they dropped it off. And last I heard, they're only going up to the title search. So I think we're pretty close.
Okay, that's exciting. What's the purchase price?
came down quite a
It
bit.
did, yeah, I know it's under 100,000,
I think it was done as 89.
Was it?
Yeah,
you know?
I can help out.
better to
something.
get it back in use.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, back on the tax map.
I have a question, and this is partially for you, Nick.
Fire away.
It has to do with the shoreline zoning application form and the instructions. At a meeting that you weren't at, Nick, I think we had an applicant that came in and didn't have photos, didn't have a lot of the stuff that,
Yeah.
and so we talked about, when are we gonna start using or handing out the new application with the, instruction sheet and everything? And Gary was gonna talk to you about that. I don't know if he ever did.
He did. I did mention to him though, maybe a week or two ago, that I had to contact, I can't remember, it's a new company, and people in Oakland that day, that we need a box of the new application. So we're now down to like bare minimum.
Okay, so we can make that transition.
Yeah, but all that stuff is up there online. So the
Okay.
instruction sheet, and we've been giving them the new instruction sheets.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, so
Okay.
they're getting that, it's just the application.
The application form is the old one?
Right before, we made that decision to go to that.
Okay.
So, in the box.
So, do most people get their applications, do they come into the town office, get them from you, or do they get them off, do they print them offline?
No, I asked it for like 75% they come.
Yeah, that's what I figured, because I don't know when this guy got his application, but it was obviously the old application form.
Like, I got a new one today. It came in a little weird, so I'll have Gary look at it. It looks like
Okay.
he messed up that formatting, but I'll do that.
All right, so we're close to making that transition.
Yeah, I was, another 2 weeks we'll have
Yeah.
all of those.
That's it.
The new shoreline.
How's Anthony doing about talking with the state, have somebody come in on information for,
I haven't heard anything since the last meeting.
okay, if you remember when we were talking to him 2 weeks ago, as far as what time to have the meeting, because a lot of people don't drive at night. How would it be to have one like, one at 3 to 4:30, then another one at 5 to 6:30?
Have
So
two.
that, yeah, so that would be some in the daylight where the older folks that don't drive after dark can come in.
I
Kind
hear
of a
your
lot to
concern.
expect of the guy coming from the state.
Right.
Right. I would say it's a good idea. It's fair to ask what the person from the state office of
Well,
marijuana policy
just-
would do. I also wrote to that person and said, hey, I know the town manager's gonna reach out to you about coming in and talk to our board about this, so I have a professional relationship with him, so I'm excited to have him come in. Very sharp guy. But,
Just a
yeah,
thought anyway.
yep, good thought.
I'll let him.
Yeah.
Um,
Other than that, the thrusters come in for the marina, the new shed.
oh, yeah? Okay.
They unloaded it Tuesday.
Because I've driven by and I've seen the walls up. We're talking about Kennebec County over here. I've seen the walls up, but nothing overhead. I'm like, huh?
Well, those are big trusses, aren't they?
Yeah.
See where he dumped them?
Pardon me?
Did you see where they dumped them?
Yeah, right.
Right by the middle door, and they got it back in with the stinger.
Yeah.
What a big pile.
Made it easy to unload them.
Basically, it's the only place you could do it.
They must have dropped them off yesterday, didn't they?
Tuesday.
Or whatever. I went to Oakland and they weren't there, and I came back and they were there.
Now, he was supposed to do some work prior to start of operation of that, if I recall how we approved that, like, you know,
Buffer zone?
yeah, which he hadn't done.
Right. And I'm sure the neighbors across the street who objected to the project would be very interested in having the correct amount of
Well,
buffers.
once they see, you know, the roof on there and everything like that, that's gonna stick out like a sore thumb.
Yep,
Particularly when you're heading from Oakland.
yeah.
If I looked at the thrusters right, they're not just the regular ones like that. They come up, then it's,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Oh,
I noticed that coming by.
I
today.
didn't know. I just noticed a big pile. It is a pretty good sized pile of trusses.
Anything else for updates? Where was Gary tonight?
He wasn't feeling too well, so.
Okay. Alrighty. Any other updates from anybody? Okay. Let's call it a night. Thanks, everybody. Morning. Excellent.
so Nick, were in a car accident?
Oh, yeah.
You didn't get hurt, I hope?
No, the guy, I was coming down Mile Long Hill Road, or Mile Long Hill, right on the corner, going up 500 feet. The guy pulled out, he's trying to correct his jackknife, and there's too much coming the other way, so we stopped and stuff like that. But,
Wow.
looks like everything's going my way, so.
That's good.
I'm glad.